JORE. I'm Sarwat Gilani. Let's talk.
Hi, my name is Aneesa Khan. I'm a filmmaker and writer, and most recently, I'm the co-host of the Desi Talkies podcast. On Desi Talkies, we talk about Bollywood, Lollywood, and everything in between. Today, we're here with actress and philanthropist Sarwat Gilani. She is known for her acting roles in Tata Husino Ke Naam, Joyland, and Joyland. Joyland is an internationally critically acclaimed film. It won a jury award at the 2022 Cannes International Film Festival, and it has most recently been shortlisted as a Best International Film Oscar nominee. So today we're here with Sarwat Gilani, one of my favorite actresses. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Today we're going to be talking about a bunch of things about your whole career trajectory. You have kind of pioneered the progressive woman role in so much of Pakistani content. You began your acting career through dramas in the early 2000s. I loved you in Azad Siagi Barat. You were my favorite Silla. And which later became a Pakistani cult classic. And then your acting career in film started in 2015 in the commercially made film Jawani Phir Nayani, where you played Gul, a Pashtun woman and a wife to a rebellious husband. Although the film was not a critical hit, it was very much a good start for Pakistan's commercial success with films.
Absolutely.
So going from roles like that, did you have one particular moment where you thought you wanted to change the types of roles you portrayed?
I think if they did have a good message, if it wasn't a message-oriented character, I didn't do it. Because I always feel that as an entertainer, we have a huge responsibility towards our audience and what we're encouraging them to do, what we're teaching them, what is being told to them. Even when I was doing the Sati Savitri, Girl Next Door, Mazloom Se Sakti Bhi Aurat roles, I felt like enough of highlighting that. There are unbelievable women who are doing unbelievable stuff. Why aren't we talking about that? So my struggle even then was that how much of these sob stories are we going to do? When Churels came to me is when things started turning. And in fact, a bit before Churels, because I'm an activist for women's rights, I talk about awareness for women's laws that protect women against child abuse and for women on a lot of platforms. I felt like I would not be able to justify a character which is weak and meek now because I don't believe in that. And I feel that on a platform, if I'm talking about how women need to stand up and raise their voice for their own rights, I cannot be acting like the woman who cannot do anything for herself. So there was a huge contrast and a huge contradiction there. So I felt like Khasara was my last play that I did. Khasara also was about an empowered woman. And so I left my career in the Pakistani television with a very strong role. After having done that strong character, I didn't think I could go back to the weak and meek anymore. And I felt if I'm not able to convince myself, how can I convince my audience? So yeah, I think that was the end of it.
I honestly fell in love with you when I saw you in Mataya Jan because your character arc in that was like, again, beginning with subtle tones of weak and meek, but then taking charge of your own narrative. And I saw that at like a younger age. So that was very pivotal in my own growth and me taking charge in my own narrative. So what types of narratives do you want to see on TV that are going to affect women and girls growing up in Pakistan? Like, what do you think they should be seeing, if not your previous work?
You know, I think they should be seeing 26 episodes of not how to get married, or if she's good enough to get married. Like the whole thing's premise is around if a girl is good enough to get married to a boy, if she will be accepted by the in-laws. That is not the kind of content we need to be seeing. Girls have improved, their standards have improved in Pakistan not just globally, but in Pakistan, women are more career oriented. Women are multitaskers, they're wives. Even if it's a housewife, she's taking care of 10 things at home. She's a hero. So, if you want to talk about women centric content, there are so many successful women who struggled so much around us. And not just professionally, I think in personal lives, women struggle so much. And we're not allowed to talk about that. So, art is a beautiful medium where you can talk about the nastiest of things in the most purest and beautiful ways. I'd like to see content like that. I'd like my younger generation, my youth, to get motivated by a role. Like you just said, Matai Jan taught you something. Hania taught you something, gave you something to hold on to. I want that kind of content to come out for Pakistani women. Why can't we talk about better things and not just sobbing stories about how bad your life is? Let's talk about a woman after her 30s. Do we go to Mars? We don't. You know, what about stories of a single parent? There are many out there. What about a story of a special needs parent? What are their struggles? So, why aren't we talking about more realistic, more practical, more elevating content? Why are we talking about putting down women all the time? It's not going to help us. It's not going to help the men behave a certain way because they get encouraged. They're like, oh, that's the norm. Actually, it's not. It's just being told on television. So don't believe anything that you see, everything that you see on the idiot box. There's a reason why it's called the idiot box.
I agree completely. I have so many arguments with family members where they're like, let's watch this drama or movie, and in it there's 15 episodes of a guy bothering a girl, stalking her, and then she falls in love.
Yeah, and then she falls in love. What is the idea that you're giving to the young youth? So you need to be in love with a harasser? No. You need to talk about values. You need to talk about self-respect. You need to teach. I mean, media is such a tool of such responsibility that you can't just keep it for entertainment according to yourself, but you have a huge responsibility to teach younger people how they should behave, teach men how to behave around women, how to be a man. A man is not beating up a wife or running after a wife or being like a mushtanda. Man is completely somebody else. So let's talk about those things. And until unless we don't talk about those things, people will not know. So it's up to us to change that narrative.
So segueing from that to something that's very similar, the roles you played in Gatal Haseen Kanam and Chirails are very much revolving around the narrative that it's important for people to take accountability for their actions. It's important to hold men accountable for their actions. If we could talk about how you've created a brand with yourself in these progressive acting roles, when we're transitioning these narratives from on-screen to off-screen, what is the public lacking in terms of holding men accountable in Pakistan? Why is the Me Too movement not progressing? And what are we missing in terms of validity that people aren't believing women or men about statements they've made publicly?
I think we're just social animals and we want to be in a society that is living a lie. And the best part is that all these women who were cheated, beaten, and harassed by men actually support that narrative and want to cover up that narrative. So a wife is not supposed to talk about her husband's extramarital affair in public because इज्जत की बात है. So इज्जत की बात ये नहीं है कि उसको ये करना ही नहीं चाहिए था, but इज्जत की बात ये है कि औरत को अपना मुंह बंद रखना चाहिए. The same parents, a lot of times your own parent, if you raise a voice and you say, hey, I'm being cheated, all our lives you've taught us that cheating is bad, lying is bad, doing bad things is bad. But now you're saying, beta, it's okay, that's how society is, that's how life is. No, you're so confused. You don't even know yourselves how bad misogynistic or patriarchal subjectiveness, what it's doing to our generations and what it's done to our parents and their parents. I don't feel any individual was happy because they were just subjected by everyone. The mother-in-law, the sister, the husband, the father, the brother, even her children are telling her how to behave. how to act in the society, how to cover up everybody else's mistake.
I agree completely. I think that there is, at the root of it, there's a huge societal stigma and issues in our way of thinking. And it's a generational gap in our way of thinking that is not even going to change in the next generation. But going along with that, there have been times where me or other filmmakers that I know have said, okay, we're not going to watch this film or this show because this person, it just came out that this person has this and this accusation. And then the filmmaker or the artist will say, let's separate the art from the artist. So in terms of this argument, when do you think that's appropriate and when do you think it is not?
I feel that until unless somebody is proven guilty and there's enough evidence, our law and our court system is really messed up. But one can really tell wrong from right. And if you feel that there is somebody who has done something wrong, not to you but to somebody else, I think it's your responsibility to stand up and say, I cannot do this. I cannot partner with such a person. And I feel that to separate basic values and from an artist and saying, hey, he's a great artist, but he's a child molester, or he's beaten up his wife, but he's a great actor. I still feel, as per principle, you should not work with such people, you should not encourage such people. You should in fact make a statement by saying that I do not stand by such people. And over the years, even in Hollywood, when this Me Too movement started, years had gone by and these unbelievable female artists had never spoken about a director or a producer molesting them or harassing them or taking advantage of them. It takes a lot of guts. But you know what? That's the power of truth. Once you stand, then there's a strength that comes from up above, which the worldly people cannot, take on, or they cannot even provide you with that strength. So stick to the truth. It's always worth it. It works out. Art is different. Art has a lot of values. Art talks about symphony. Art talks about togetherness. Art talks about love. Art talks about creating, being innovative. Art does not talk about hushing things down or putting people down. So these are two different, very, very different things. So if an artist is a great artist, but he's a bad human being, it's quite clear, it's quite evident what you should do,
If we're circling back to your two shows that have appeared on Z5, which is an Indian streaming platform, I feel like the shows you've worked on, other shows on that platform in general, have kind of created a middle ground where it's acceptable or not scolded for Indians and Pakistanis to work together on a show and to create art, like you said. So how do you react to those who criticize you or other artists or filmmakers that are Pakistani and primarily making Pakistani content for putting it on an Indian platform, even though this platform does give you more artistic freedom?
So the people who have a problem have never stood up for Pakistan. So who are they to say anything? And by this time, I've become so thick-skinned that I really don't care if somebody who does not stand for a cause, who does not get out of his house for his neighbor, who does not stand with the board saying drainage bad, roads, let's fight for my neighbors, then they have no right, then they have no voice. So if they don't have a voice for a great cause, and if they have a voice for just trashy, nasty, pulling down people, then that's where they belong, When it comes to India and Pakistan, it is a tricky situation. But when it is about art and say like 200 Pakistani people working on a project, it's my win, it's Pakistan's win. We are giving job opportunities to creative minds. We are giving artists opportunities to project themselves in a better way on a much larger global platform. So there is no harm. As long as you're not hurting anybody's sentiments by saying something bad for your own country, I think you're good.
Of course, you are no stranger to censorship issues. You've experienced it first in Chorreos through a streaming service when it was banned to be viewed and the access to it was restricted online. And now you are experiencing it in Joyland when it was banned, given permission, when it was banned, and very much a back and forth. And where the media took charge and created the hashtag Release Joyland, where kind of the whole world came together in a really beautiful way, where film festivals all around the world were advocating for the beauty that this film possesses. I've seen the uncensored version. I've had the privilege of watching it. The censored version is available here in parts of Pakistan. I'm personally a big believer that art in its entirety should be viewed. Censoring and taking away scenes that are considered wrong with a bias takes away from the whole form. Have you seen both versions?
Yes.
Okay.
Many times.
Yeah. Seeing both versions and having the critical reception from those who have viewed it in Pakistan versus internationally, what are the major differences and disadvantages the audience has in viewing?
People fell in love with Joyland abroad because they saw it in its entire spectrum. And we got standing ovations, and the French was like, even if he didn't understand the language, the subtitles did it for him. He got there, he felt the human emotion. That in itself is so powerful that whoever comes in, it's like throwing sir aap apna दीवार पे मार लो तो कुछ होगा नहीं, दीवार नहीं टूटेगी. It was just like that. Joyland is a narrative that resonates with every sort of person, whether they belong to Africa or Pakistan or France or Canada or Morocco or wherever, is because it speaks the truth. And truth is universally seen. And I felt that a lot of people here, when they watched it, there were confusions. There were a lot of questions. So a lot of friends who had access to me, they would come out of the cinema and ask me those 2-3 questions. But as a whole, I felt like whatever people got here, they were happy that they at least got to watch a thing like Joyland, which was doing wonders in the world. It would have been, imagine, it would have been so unfortunate that a team of 200 Pakistani people worked on something where people are giving them standing ovations, and our own Pakistani people are unable to see that. It would have been so unfortunate. So I'm used to the ban culture. In fact, it's a joke now that whatever I do, it's banned first and then it gets unbanned.
That's how you know it's good at this point.
You know, which kind of works because it makes people curious.
Yeah.
And it's intriguing as to why people are banning stuff. But I felt like as a whole, whether you got to see the censored version or whether you got to see the real thing, you felt something.
So in Joyland, you play Nuchi, a stay-at-home mom responsible for a 9-person household, and very much the standard perception of what women in Pakistan are supposed to be. And with all the international acclaim that Joyland has received, it also brings up to notion that a lot of the films Pakistan has received international acclaim for have portrayed Pakistan in a negative light, have showed human trafficking cases, negative connotations and perceptions of the LGBTQ community, and it's kind of adding to the whole Western perception that, you know, Pakistan is like in a ditch, it's terrible, there's nothing great about it. So with this receiving international acclaim, how do you feel about playing a stereotypical role in a progressive topic film, and why did you choose to play this role?
You know, there was a hierarchy in Nuchi's character. She's an observer, she's the caretaker, she's the provider, but at the same time, she understands the ally who's Mumtaz. She has a responsibility, she has to take care of the house, but then she also secretly wants to help her. And in the end, when you see that she speaks up, Nuchi, towards the end, that is her power. And sometimes we need to be reminded that a lot of things are unspoken, and people don't want to talk about it. But when you do talk about it, it's the most powerful thing you can see. So Nuchi was a stereotypical girl, but then she's also not stereotypical. She takes out a cigarette, she smokes, she goes in a corner, talks dirty, she goes back, she has her kids, she knows she wants to have a son to provide a son to the family. But then she's okay when she has a daughter. There's a moment of despair, but then you see her in the next scene, she's okay. So I wouldn't call her a stereotypical character, but yes, there are streaks of the ordinary girl. And if that last scene did not exist, I would say it was a very stereotypical girl. So because of that last scene that you see, the climax, and that is the scene the film was sold to me on, and I would have felt that she was a weak girl. Right? I would have been a little confused about doing that. But because of that scene, you realize that just because she's not saying it, just because nobody's saying it, she doesn't feel like she should keep herself shut with that opinion. And it's time, when it's time, she says it. And that goes to show that she is a strong woman, not a very vocal woman, maybe, but she does know how to stand up for somebody who's died, who's not even there anymore, but she still chooses to stand up. That's a cool girl.
Yeah. No, I really love the progression of her character to kind of overhearing things, seeing things, and you can feel the way you portrayed it, how she's kind of internalizing everything, and then eventually it becomes too much. With the attention that this film is getting internationally, a lot of people in Pakistan are concerned that this is the film that is going to represent their country. So, with their concerns with the taboo of the LGBTQ community and a lot of topics that, again, are talked about behind closed doors, but once it's put on screen, everyone is just so stressed and upset. Do you think this film is a good representation of what Pakistan is to the Western world? And also, why does it matter so much to us what they think of us? That's a whole other thing.
That's a big, long, it's been there in the history. That this is a huge Gora complex that we have, right? So we need to impress them, we need to copy them, we need to be like them, but we're not. So exactly just like that, we do have these issues in Pakistan. We do have a bias when it comes to a transgender. We do make fun of them. We don't want to elevate them. We don't want to accept them. So these are all honest truths. And if you want to sugarcoat truth all the time, you're living a lie. And that is what Pakistani people love to live. They love to live a lie because it's convenient. So I feel that until unless you don't own your truth, you don't own yourself. So the day they own Joyland is the day they're going to own themselves for who they really are, and not have a squeaky clean image when there is so much just the opposite stuff happening behind closed doors. So I feel that whoever's honest and comfortable in their skin has no idea why people are feeling like that, because they're accepting themselves, they're accepting what Joyland represents. And it's just so insane that people want honesty but they don't want the truth. So let's first have you figure yourselves, and then we can talk about what Joyland does. But what Joyland is doing is the most talked about film, Pakistani feature film, that has ever made the rounds like that. And every country, mostly every country, why are there LGBTQ riots happening, or why are there people coming out with boards saying that everybody needs to live the way they need to live, is because it's happening on a global level. And just because Pakistan is saying it, and you're living that lie every day, when we see a trans on the road, we're making fun of them. We're not helping them. When we bring them on our shows, we're definitely putting them down, and we think that's a joke, that's part of entertainment. So it's not. It's time we stand up and we call a spade, and say, here's a trans woman, these are her struggles, and it's in your face, whether you like it or not. But it is what it is. So really, your opinion doesn't count if you're a liar. You know? So it's really okay.